Tyrone Bowman live. Strike up a win for California Governor Gavin Newsom. According to CalMatters, Gavin Newsom's redistricting plan is on its way to voters. What you need to know. I'm Tyrone Bowman. This is Tyrone Bowman Live. And California lawmakers have approved Governor Gavin Newsom's redistricting plan, sending measures to voters. Many California Democrats are reluctant to give up the state's independently drawn congressional districts, but they say it's a necessary step to counter gerrymanders in Republican states. Governor Gavin Newsom's plan to counter President Donald Trump's election gerrymander in Texas with his own redistricting play in California is on its way to voters. The California legislature today approved his proposal calling for a special election on a ballot measure that would suspend the state's current congressional districts, which were drawn by an independent commission, and replace them with a map intended to favor Democrats. The Assembly passed the measure 57-20, and lawmakers on the floor erupted in applause even before they closed the vote. The Senate passed it hours later on a party-line vote of 30-8. Newsom declared a November 4 special election shortly afterward. We will not let our political system be hijacked by authoritarianism, and today we give every Californian the power to say no, said Speaker Robert Ravis, Democrat of Hollister, on the Assembly floor shortly before the vote. To say no to Donald Trump's power grab and yes to our people, to our state, and to our democracy. California voters in a 20 ballot measure backed independent redistricting for congressional districts, a process meant to cultivate fair, competitive elections. Democrats say they're reluctant to give up that system, even temporarily, but believe that they have in order to counter Trump's bid to retain control of Congress after 2026. Quote, if undressed, Texas's actions, which occur without the vote of the populace, will disenfranchise California, said Assemblymember Josh Lowenthal, a Long Beach Democrat whose father had pushed for nonpartisan redistricting as a state lawmaker and congressman. It's imperative that Californians have a voice in selecting the political party that controls Congress in 2026, said Lowenthal in an emotional speech from the floor before the vote. So today I proudly join with my father, the architect of this commission, in urging its temporary suspension. Republicans before the vote pleaded with their colleagues to resist following Texas in the race to the gendarmerian bottom. Well, isn't it ironic that the Republican Assemblyman James Gallagher had nothing to say in opposition about what happened down in Texas? He was mum because he was implicit with it, or complicit with it, rather. But now all of a sudden, this same assemblyman has a whole lot to say to the Democrats because they know now that the leavening field is going to get even more powerful and wider for the Democrats to counterattack an offense in the upcoming midterm 2026 elections. They didn't listen to the Democrats down in Texas, and now the Democrats in California are not listening to the Republicans. So how does it feel, Assemblyman, to be the minority? Doesn't feel too good, does it? When they outvote you. There's really only one way to stop someone. Someone has to refrain from striking back and show a better way, said Assemblymember James Gallagher, Republican of Chico and the minority leader. Really? You didn't stand up for the people. You didn't stand up for them when they started taking away their Medicaid and Medicare. You didn't stand up for them, and you didn't stand against the big, beautiful bill, did you? You didn't stand up for the mothers who lost their BET cards and their food stamps. You didn't stand up for the elderly when they started demanding that they get out there and work for what few benefits they have. You didn't stand up for the children whose lunch and breakfast was taken away from them. You didn't give a damn, did you? Lawmakers on Thursday also passed a bill containing the new congressional map voters will be asked to approve, sending it to Newsom's desk, and an additional bill that will facilitate and fund the special election. Newsom signed both of them today. The change is intended to be temporarily. The measure that will go before voters requires the state to return to nonpartisan map drawing after the 2030 census. Newsom kicked off the special election scramble after Trump declared that he was entitled to have 5 more GOP congressional seats in Texas. He demanded that Lone Star State lawmakers store up a Republican razor-thin 3-seat House majority by redrawing their congressional maps mid-decade. When Governor Greg Abbott indicated Texas would redistrict, Newsom said California would retaliate. Democrats today hold 43 of the state's 52 congressional seats. The Newsom-backed map transformed 5 Republican seats into districts that heavily favor Democrats by ousting those incumbents. Newsom would effectively essentially cancel out Trump's effort in Texas. The maps also strengthen Democrats' hold on 3 other competitive California districts, making it harder for the GOP to flip them next year. California Republican lawmakers spent the week throwing up a variety of procedural blocks to try to stop the bill's fast-track progress through the legislature, including by asking the California Supreme Court to weigh in on their challenge to the short time between the legislative's public release on Monday and their final vote on the Assembly and Senate floors on Thursday. Well, you didn't ask the Supreme Court to step in to help the Democrats, did you? No, you did not. They demanded an end to the redistricting arms race nationwide, with some willing to condemn Texas and other red states that Trump has urged to redraw their maps. That's a bunch of hogwash. You know you cowards are not going to stand up to the president. You're not going to do it. You're in too deep. They argue that Newsom's maps unfairly split some communities into multiple congressional districts and that some Democratic lawmakers were biased given their reported personal interest in running for Congress. So what? So what? Down in Texas, they're doing it to deliberately disenfranchise Black and brown people. They don't want Black people to vote. Now, how does it feel knowing that in California, the same thing is going to happen to y'all? In particularly, acrimonious spills on the Senate and Assembly floors. The 2 parties sparred over who had started the fight. Republicans accused of insufficient opposition to the Trump administration in turn argued Democratic lawmakers were overly loyal to Newsom. So what? You're loyal to Trump. You're loyal to the president, they can be loyal to the governor. But Republican efforts to derail the measure ran up against both political numbers and longtime legislative practice in California. He closed by saying this: polls shows most Democratic voters want the party to do more to fight the Trump administration. In the past few weeks, Democratic lawmakers who commanded a 3/4 supermajority in both chambers have overwhelmingly fallen in line behind Newsom on the redistricting effort. Each year, lawmakers regularly reveal last-minute details that they fast-tracked for passage 72 hours later in a way that nominally compiles with state constitutional requirements. The time of the votes may be, pardon me, I don't want to lose my feed. The timing of the votes may be litigated, but California Republicans have already lost in court once. The state Supreme Court on Wednesday night declined to take up the GOP's timing-based challenge to the map drawing effort. GOP lawmakers acknowledged they'll likely have to fight the issue at the polls. We will defeat this. If it's not here in the Capitol, it will be in the courtroom. It will be on the ballot box assembly, Alexander Maystil said this week. And the Democrats are going to do the same. Now, how about that? You're not going to win this time. Prepare for the battle. Never surrender. Never quit.